Glad you're back with us. Some news out of Green Bay, where incoming team president Ed Policy made it clear that he doesn't see long-term deals for head coach Matt LaFleur and GM Brian Gutekunst, saying, quote, none of them are up at the end of this year. We won't be doing anything going into this season. Alrighty then. Schefter, what more can you tell us?
Well, it's interesting because both Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur have 2 years left on their contract. So Ed Policy, the incoming president and CEO, already has ruled out an extension this season, which might put a little bit more pressure on both men this season with the Green Bay Packers, because if they have a good season, okay, everybody steps to the bargaining table after next year. If they don't, these same questions that came up yesterday to Ed Policy will come up again, and it'll be interesting to see how he answers them that time.
I'm just going to say this one time. I won't say it again. Ed Policy, great name for the role that he's got. It's worked out well. I like it. All right, time to read and react to some stories around the league, starting with Micah Parsons, who's still waiting for a new deal in Dallas. Fellow defensive end Myles Garrett weighed in on the situation this week.
He deserves whatever he's earned. I mean, guy's special. Of course, I got the chance to train with him, and I've seen his work ethic. I've seen how he attacks the weights, running. He's 100% committed to his craft and getting better every day. And someone who produces on the field and has that level of dedication, to the game, you should get every penny he's owed.
Adam, what more can you tell us about the negotiations in Dallas?
They've been ongoing, and the two sides have been talking throughout the offseason, and at some point most people believe that there will be a deal that makes Micah Parsons the highest paid defensive player in NFL history, beating the deal that Myles Garrett got from the Cleveland Browns earlier this offseason. Parsons is entering the last year of a deal. Dallas wants to get a deal done. Parsons wants to get a deal done. He's already attended the offseason program, the mandatory minicamp, intimated that he would be at training camp. So I think that keeps the clear lines of communication open with the hope that both sides will work out what will be a historic deal.
What's interesting about this is the fact that, at 26 years old, the guy who last year was second in pressure percentage, second in pass rush win rate, top 10 in sack percentage, and he didn't play a full season, right? He missed, 4 games. So, look, what's wild is, Myles is talking about the fact that he should be compensated for what he's done. But really, contracts are about future performance projection, which makes it, for Micah Parsons, even better, because think of it this way. Think about the kind of stats on the 17-game season with now a guy like Donovan Ezra, who they drafted out of Boston College, rushing opposite him, which is just going to open up things for Micah. His stats are going to go through the roof, I believe, in 2025 because of the fact that the defense is going to look better. So not only should he be compensated for what he's done in the past, the team's trying to project, okay, what kind of production are we going to get over the next 2 to 3 seasons? And Micah's probably thinking the same darn thing. And this contract, look, Adam has said it many times, and it's quite obvious, it's going to reset the bar as far as highest paid defensive player in history of the National Football League. It may be even higher than what we think if you start looking at it in that context, which is kind of wild to me.
Right. He's 100% deserving of that. And by the way, if you're Jerry Jones, you got to get that done before his numbers are even better, like what Lewis is saying, which we expect him to do it either way. All right, let's go to another big fella who's trying to get paid. That would be Trey Hendrickson. And our Jeremy Fowler reported on this situation this week. He posted sources, Bengals and All-Pro defensive end Trey Hendrickson have resumed contract talks. So, Adam, what can you tell us about that situation in Cincinnati?
Talking is different than making progress. And in this particular case, they are talking, but it's hard to tell how much progress, if any, they're actually making so far. I think there's a disagreement on the length of the contract. The Bengals would like Trey Hendrickson to sign a short-term deal. Hendrickson would like some long-term security and the money that comes along with it. And so before you can figure out value, I think first you have to agree on the years, and the two sides have been unable to do that. So yes, they're talking. No, they're not making a lot of progress, but there's a lot of time between now and the start of training camp.
All right, so Laura, let me just establish this full stop. I think the Bengals should pay Trey Hendrickson. They have to find a way to get this deal done. He might have been the only defensive player that offensive players in Cincinnati acknowledged last year because the rest of the defense was awful and he was an all-pro. My point is to not say that he doesn't deserve the money. I'm trying to educate people and sort of canvassing people around the league about why this can be a more difficult deal to do, because if it wasn't difficult, it would have been done weeks or months ago.
Right.
Trey Hendrickson's 30 years old. He'll be 31 in December. Despite this incredible production, the NFL is always using comps. Recent deals are of players that play a similar position, oftentimes in a similar age bracket. The last two really notable extensions for 30-plus-year-old pass rushers in recent vintage were Chandler Jones when he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders and Von Miller when he signed with the Buffalo Bills. Von had a really hot start with Buffalo, then he got hurt. And the reality is when you're older, the risk of injury becomes that much more damaging. It was a deal that by the end of it was a real problem for Buffalo.
Right.
Obviously Las Vegas with Chandler Jones, a lot of things happened there, but it was a bad deal financially for them. I'm not saying they shouldn't pay him. I'm just trying to maybe provide a bit of insight from talking to people around the NFL about why this thing might be trickier to do than maybe a deal like Micah Parsons should be, where to me,
he's 26.
He's 26, you find the highest paid edge rusher, you give him a bit more than that, and you get it done.
Played every snap. Played every snap.
Henderson? Oh, no, he's a great player.
Hendrickson.
My opinion may be different from the Bengals, but if it was easy in the Bengals' eyes, it would have been done a long time ago.
He leads the NFL in sacks, as you guys know, over the last 2 seasons, tied for second in pressures. But this isn't about what he's done in the past, it's about what could happen in the future. We're going to go to Miami. Tua Tagovailoa, you see him there at OTAs last week. Mike McDaniel and company, they're looking to not just make the postseason, but to have success in the playoffs this season. Tua and his health, of course, a big key there. And Tua's former tackle, Teron Armstead, compared him to a future Hall of Famer.
I wholeheartedly believe in Tua. Believe in his ability. I've seen him snap into a mode that looked familiar to me from Drew Brees. That's why I have no problem making that comparison. The consistency of that, him snapping into that like assassin mode, that sniper mode, that's that championship DNA that we want to see more consistently. I believe he can do it.
Yeah, the Tua and Brees comparison might not be too far-fetched. So far in Tua's career, he has the same exact yards per attempt, touchdown to interception ratio, and completion percentage as Drew Brees did in his career. That's interesting.
Wow.
Their 68% completion rate is good for top 3 in NFL history among players with at least 1,000 attempts, only behind Joe Burrow. For the Tua haters, that's a good one to throw at him. All right, Lewis, so what do you make of the Brees comp for Tua?
Yeah, statistically, obviously you see the comparisons right there. But I think with Tua, look, there's a couple things that need to happen for him individually and then Miami as a team. One, individually, look, we all know what it's about with Tua. With Tua, it's about availability. It's about staying on the football field. It's about making better decisions when he's in harm's way, and he's mentioned that. He knows the importance of him staying available for this football team. First and foremost, because if he's available, you know what he can do. The stats bear it out. Now, Miami overall as an organization, what do they need to do for Tua in terms of helping him and helping this football team ascend? So where people just don't zero in on him all the time and blame him for all their shortcomings, it's this. What did Drew Brees have when he was in New Orleans? Yeah. He really had one of the best offensive lines in football, especially when you're talking about the interior. Okay, he had Carl Nicks and Jari Evans, who were two of